My name is Rajeev Bhargava. I work in Delhi, and my field of research is political theory, in particular, ideas of political secularism, minority rights, in relations between different religious communities, and how one can overcome estrangement between them when that happens. Those are the those are the fields that I work in. While I've accepted to be the lead author in chapter 13, which deals with democracy, and I've been assigned to write on democracy and diversity, given my interests. So I'd be contributing a section of the chapter on democracy and equality, or democracy and freedom, which that's my role. There is all kinds of setbacks to what we imagine would be a better world for everybody at one time. So one can say that there's been a great deal of social regression. And I think we need to collectively deliberate and put together a document which will be an inspiration both to us and to other people. A document that would clarify issues, make connections between things which appear to be disparate, enable a deeper understanding, provide some explanation for why we are in the mess that we are, and what possibly we can do to remove certain impediments that have grown over the years to what we believe would be a better world for everyone, or social progress. So yes, I think it's a document that we need, and it has, I mean, it obviously has its limits. This is not action on the field, as it were. We're not trying to directly change the world, but I think we are providing some input into the conditions that would support any kind of action or multiple movements across the world to bring about social progress. So I think it's a much needed effort, and one doesn't know, one cannot predict what impact it has, but one can hope that it will make some difference. I think, there are many, but there are two in particular. One is a certain kind of cultural divide that exists between people who believe that they are religious and people who believe that they are non-religious, or agnostic or atheists, or who have no affiliations to any religion and so on. I think there are a lot of stereotypes on both sides, and it's important for us to dismantle those stereotypes, so that at least some religious and some non-religious people can come to a shared understanding of the world, and together improve the world. This is certainly one very important aspect of my work. The other important aspect of my work is to change our conception of what we mean by political secularism and what we understand the secular state to be. Much of the thinking on secularism and on secular state has been shaped by two models. one that grew in France and the other that grew in the United States of America. The French model, which has been the inspiration for Ataturk's Turkey and for many of the communist states, and they have taken it to the extreme. The French model is, I would say, at least mildly anti-religious in its origin. It's anti-church, actually, but over a period of time it became anti-religious. So political secularism became identified with something that is against religion as such. And as this conception traveled to other parts of the world where people saw themselves as religious, they became automatically anti-secular. There is another model of the world, another model in our public domain, which has its origins in the United States of America, where the state has to keep off religion, and religion likewise have to keep off the state. Now, that's not always in practice. That is not the case, even in the United States. And of course, that's not the only model in the United States, but this is the model that has traveled to other parts of the world, where the jurisdiction of religion and the state are completely distinct and separate, and where both keep away from one another in order to protect both religious freedom and political action and political freedom. Now, this model is also, as I said, it's traveled to many parts of the world, but in many places it won't work, as indeed it sometimes doesn't work even in the United States. The reason why it won't work in these places is because there are many religious practices and institutions that are discriminatory and exclusionary. They discriminate against women, and they exclude both people who are critics or dissenters within their own religion, and people who are, outside their religion. So there is both inter and intra-religious domination, and the only collective agency that can somehow face up to and challenge and somehow intervene against both these forms of religious domination is the state. So the state just cannot keep off religion. The state has to intervene in some religious practices and some religious institutions to uphold freedom, equality, dignity, and so on of both individuals and groups. But likewise, there are many religious groups, particularly of the minority communities, particularly within the minority communities, which need support to survive. Many religious groups need exemptions from laws that are promulgated by the majority. In some cases, they need subsidies to run their religious schools because they're not able to do so themselves. So it's not just that the state has to intervene in religious institutions in a negative way to prevent religion from discriminating against and excluding people, but the state also has to intervene to support religion and to help religion, particularly those practices which are not detrimental to freedom or equality, and of minority groups in particular. So these two models are inadequate, and we have to think of another model by which we can deal with religion, and religion can deal with the state. So I've been working out this new conception of secularism, which takes us away from these two models. So my belief is that in those parts of the world where secularism is associated with something which is against religion, and in those parts of the world where secularism is associated with sheer indifference to religion or some state being neutral towards religion in the sense of not doing anything in relation to religion, and therefore as something which is ineffective against all kinds of religious exclusions and dominations. I think this model can appeal to both sections, both the religious and the non-religious, or those who are sensitive to what religion can do for people, and those who are sensitive to what religion does against the people. And so it has the potential of being far more acceptable and enhance prospects of both freedom and equality and solidarity in different parts of the world. Of course, these are only abstract versions of models, and as they travel to different parts of the world, they have to adapt to those social, political, and cultural contexts. But I really do hope that this model that I'm suggesting will have some impact and contribute to social change in the right direction. The presence of women in public places. I'm talking about India. I mean, I'm not talking about the rest of the world. I think more and more women will come into the public space to get jobs, to express themselves freely, to do things that they were unable to do before in the civic and the political and the public space, to take part in public deliberation, to stand for public office. So I think that is an irreversible process, and I think that will continue. And it's a good, very, very welcome change. There are many contexts where women, for the sake of freedom, would like to veil themselves. If, for example, fortunately, this is not as true as it once was in the case of, say, India, where women were confined to homes and they were not allowed to move into the public world. And I'm talking about not, certain rich rural families and also some urban families, well-to-do urban families, even middle class. Now, if you are confined to home and not able to get out, and if you wear the veil, then you get a chance to move out, then the veil in these contexts becomes a source of emancipation because it makes you mobile, when in fact, at one time, you were completely restricted to, your own little private space within your husband's or your father's home. So there are contexts where the veil is emancipatory. Not totally, but it plays an important role. And if women voluntarily choose to do that, that would be pretty good. So the context sensitivity of these issues is extremely important. Where women are completely, they are accustomed to freedom, to just wear exactly what they want to wear. In those contexts, if you impose the veil, then it's obviously a major restriction on how they want to be and how they want to live their life, do things, and so yeah. I mean, the context in which these issues emerge is extremely important, and questions of religious domination and freedom from domination must be sensitive to these contexts. The aspiration to improve their life prospects is something that's a bug that is infecting would be the wrong word. I think the metaphor of the bug itself is incorrect. No, I would say that a lot more people today are aspiring to move ahead and to improve at least the material conditions of their life. And this is one of the things that is really remarkable. I mean, a lot of people in India simply accepted their position in life, their material conditions, that they were not concerned with their life prospects. They survived without bothering to ask whether they can or whether they should improve their material and social conditions. I think more and more people today are moving in the direction they have the aspiration to move up, and that's something which is unprecedented. I mean, the sheer number of people who would want to move up today is something which is unprecedented. I think the third is a question of status, which is very big in India. I think equality of status is something which is becoming central to India today. There are very few people who can openly justify hierarchies, social hierarchies, status hierarchies. So I think we will certainly in India see more and more of this kind of equalization, where people will simply not put up with any justification which is which grounds the intrinsic intrinsic social superiority of some category of persons over others. I think in the next, that's all. These are all processes that will not be a radical departure from what is happening. It's not a radical departure from what is happening already, but this will be further strengthened. That is not to say that all these new changes and achievements will not generate their own problems. That's bound to happen in the short run, at least. And I hope that people will devise ways of coping with and solving those problems. But I mean, on the whole, these are very healthy developments and something that we can be legitimately proud of as political and social agents.